I'm starting the remembership because we're in a time of systemic forgetfulness, distractions everywhere, trying to get us to spend our attention, spend our money, spend our time before we even remember to check in with ourselves, to remember our wholeness and belonging, to remember the resources that are already available to us inside and around and within community. I'm starting the remembership because remembering is a practice, and it's an embodied practice that becomes integrated through the memory of our bodies. Our bodies are mostly water. Water holds memory. Our minds, the space within our body, is also a big part of us. And we can think of our thoughts as that realm of space, of air, of movement, where a lot of our understandings come to be, connect, and intertwine. But until they are embedded in the deep waters of our body, our organs, our nervous system, it's too easy to stay in those habits that are enforced by apps, algorithms, and systems designed to keep us dismembered instead of remembered. Although this is not new, many of our ancestors have experienced systemic dismemberment, and therefore we hold the generational trauma and memory of fear cycles, of punishment, of having to survive by playing small. And so now more than ever, it's our time to reclaim, reconcile, reconsider, reflect, reconvene, and remember our wholeness, our inherent belonging, the elements within and around us that can support our coming back together, our remembering ourselves, one another, and our connections to one another and the natural world that we are not separate from. Remembership is a communal vessel tethered by eco-embodiment practices. The greatest intention here is to continually come back together as we are, no matter what, whether asynchronous or live, and practice the simple act of being with our own feelings, what's going on in the world, what each other is experiencing, and witnessing and experiencing the power of togetherness within ourselves, amongst and with others. Together, we will titrate and pendulate like the ocean tides do between inner and outer ways of knowing, sensing, being with, connecting, and remembering. Through this changing and shapeable form that creates a layer of support and sustainability, we are attempting to repattern the forgetfulness into a sense of enoughness and remembrance. This takes time, and it's a slow process, but little by little, together, it's possible through so many different ways. And this is just one way that I'm offering for us to come together and be. I made it so that you can come and join us for even just 1 month cycle of practice, trusting that even that will give you a great foundation to start with. But if you're able, coming for at least a quarter or even longer, like a year, which I've offered discounts on, it could help ingrain and shift these patterns, helping us open up to more choice within change. Letting our bodies know through subtle memory and somatics that we don't have to fear or force within times of unfamiliarity, but that we are more than capable of holding contradictions and complexity when we bring it back into our senses, when we orient and resource, and come back to remembering our origins. That's what this container is all about, and it will be a balance of newness and repetition as a cyclical benefit, as a natural echoing of the ways of nature. In a world that teaches us that repetition is redundant, we are creating resilience through this remembrance. Each session will start with our root practices, which will be our anchors, which will become deeply embedded practices that we still have choice within and variations offered within. From there, we'll talk about current happenings in our personal lives, in our world, in our communities, and in the cosmos to acknowledge and witness. And then we will go into practice, dropping the mind into the body again, sensing and feeling for other wisdoms and ways of knowing and being with. We'll come back out of that into more shared space with the opportunity for discussion or witnessing and listening, which is equally as valid. And you'd be surprised how much we can learn just by being in a shared space where we might have overlapping questions and thoughts. We'll titrate again back in to more practice after that, honoring this ebb and flow like the tides, mimicking that so we can learn this balance, this reciprocal resilience in all parts of ourselves, with things we know and can't face and can't change. Alternating that with choice, with autonomy, with our sensory strength, with our inner knowing and guidance, and shared space held for strength and support. There will be time for prompts too. There will be time for questions. There will be space for writing and creating perhaps. Each session will be different, but also root us into a similar structure so that our bodies can become familiar with pacing and have as much of a sense of safety as possible. In between the twice-a-month meetings, which will generally be every other week, there will be time for integration so that our bodies can rest, so that we can practice on our own time, so that we can process. Yet there will also be our private discussion forum where we can asynchronously communicate, share, ask questions, be witness and witness. In that space, I will also offer us weekly check-in and integration prompts so that we can be reminded to come back to our body, our practices, our needs, our desires. Through this structure, I hope and I trust that support will grow, that things will shift as they need, that the people will shape the space, and that we will together grow in our capacity, our resilience, and our remembrance.